I love manga cover art. It tells you so much about what the series is, but also where exactly in the longer running story you are. In one image, a manga artist needs to sell you on that volume, and if it's one of the earlier volumes, the entire series. So today I wanted to rank the cover art from the greatest sports manga of all time, Haikyu. There is no reason to waste any time, let's get right into it. My lowest ranked Haikyu cover is Volume 14. Despite the fact that one commenter declared me art deaf, even I am not that art deaf. Anyways, about Volume 14. This is my least favorite Haikyu volume, and I don't even hate it the more I look at it. I like Inoshida getting a cover appearance in such a pivotal part of the story for him, but the faces just look a little weird and there's just so little going on. I'm pretty sure it's just because he has a tragic haircut, but Inoshida's face looks off-center. Also, there's no posing or really anything, just the upper half of two dudes and very little else going on, so can't put this one any higher, and yeah, it's my least favorite of these covers. Volume 15. Interestingly enough, this cover comes right after my least favorite cover. This one isn't bad, it's just a little boring and weird. Rather than having the upper half of two dudes, we have the upper 2/3 of three dudes. That's double the amount of dudes, and they're holding hammers, which mathematically makes this cover better. When I look at the cover, I immediately notice how Hinata's face just looks super goofy here. He's like connecting to his inner frog or something. I don't know. The super tall date tech setter also looks a little bit goofy, but that's just kind of his character design throughout the series. And Mad Dog is just mogging the other two, and honestly looks pretty cool. He's definitely the best part of this cover. Not a terrible cover, just no better than the other 43. Volume 2. Another cover I really like. This one just has the early cast of the series having a good time, but the faces in perspective here are a little weird. Hinata and Kageyama especially, just a little off. Kageyama's hitting some Karate Kid pose and Hinata's face just looks a little off. I do love Daichi and Sugawara in this one. I think it's also worth noting that Haikyu has this huge art transformation with the early art looking rougher and more angular, making some of these early covers look weird when compared to later ones. Volume 7. Making this video hurts me. While writing these scripts, I put the volume cover over my blurb so I can mention any details and so I can keep looking at it as I'm writing the script in case I want to change the ranking. The more I look at this one, I just really like this cover. It's cool, but it's still in my bottom because it's just boring and I don't know what to do. It's not like my low ranking for this cover has no reasons. Daichi looks a little weird and Sugawara from far away, the shading kind of makes it so that his chin is connected to his neck, which is a little strange, but again, the more you look at this cover, it's not like it's bad, it's just not worth going any higher. Volume 6. I think on a pure art level, there were clearly better covers before this. I think both Oikawa and Kageyama look a little weird here, especially Kageyama's face, but I think that this cover is a lot more symbolically and narratively interesting than the other covers that preceded it, so I'm putting it a bit higher. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but seeing these two on the opposite sides of the net, facing opposite directions, showing how little they see eye to eye, and how naturally and completely opposed they are, is just really cool symbolism, and I like it a lot. Still, the subpar artwork pulls this one down pretty far, but a good cover. Volume 3. Furudate got so much better and more consistent at drawing his characters. Nishinoya looks good here, and the shadow and motion make a much more action-packed covers than the ones before, but still, this super early style, the faces and perspective just look worse than they do later in the series, which means solid covers like these will keep getting pushed low. I just think Nishinoya looks a little weird here, and yeah, can't justify putting it any higher. Volume 5. This cover is an interesting one. In some ways, it's amazing. Like Hinata, a great focal point for this cover. And I'm a big fan of the composition, but the background characters just look so much worse than the focal point. It's a little bit jarring. Aussie and Date Tech Guy just look weird. Aussie's expression and perspective are all messed up. Up to this point, Furudate had done interesting things with the shading and perspective, but here, the characters just look really flat in the background, which, yeah, makes this a pretty iffy cover. Hinata and the layout, though, pull this cover up majorly. Volume 29. This is a really interesting cover. We can learn a lot about the twins, and I respect Furudate for going for this super dramatic 3D perspective effect, but it is a little weird. I mean, I can keep using words to describe this effect, but I think you'll feel a certain way about it the second you look at it, and I can't say much else. I think it's cool, but a little strange, and I don't like this artwork more than any of the others, so yeah. Volume 40. I don't know if this opinion is common, but even though I love Aussie, he's probably the least compelling of the main cast. Part of that could be his terrible English dub voice actor.
I am the one who cost us the game.
So I'm impressed at how much I like this cover. Far from a favorite of mine, but still pretty darn cool. Using one of the cooler bits of imagery from the manga and making this really cool piece of artwork is a great idea for a cover, and yeah, good job. Volume 4. Another fun, slightly less polished early cover. I really love the Nekoma guys and really love this goofy cover where they're just doing cat claws. But like many of the other early covers, the background characters look a little weird. Like this trio in the back could have used a little more time in the oven. Also, Tenma gets a surprising amount of cover appearances, so there are much better Tenma covers later on that I just felt the need to put higher. Volume 11. I like Bokuto, and this is a solidly cool cover and perspective. Not much more to say. Volume 26. Man, I like this cover. I think generally this manager lady is super sweet throughout the series, and just seeing her in this volume personally push herself to the limit to help her team in any way she can is awesome. Also, unless I'm mistaken, this is the only cover appearance of a female character in the entirety of the series, so I guess one is better than none. Volume 12. This cover just makes me happy. Furudate had figured out how to draw his characters, and to see the entire starting lineup in motion in this really cool composition makes a super simple, super fun cover that just shows the best parts of the early art of this series. Volume 35. I try to have my opinions be completely my own, so I tend not to look at what other people think about these covers before I make these videos, but I have a feeling in my bones that people love this cover and are gonna hate on me putting it this low, but I don't care. I think this cover is good, but Tenma looks a little goofy. Again, I like this cover, but I feel like I'm playing preemptive defense for why my rank for this one is just low. This one just isn't my thing. Volume 25. This cover is confusing. I don't know how to rank it. Volume 25 is clearly part of a pair. Volumes 24 and 25 cover Hinata and Kageyama's time apart, so they look separate ways in these two very distinctly different settings, and it's an amazing duo. But to be fair, the Hinata cover is just much better and comes later in the ranking. And this cover, outside of its being in a pair, just isn't as cool. I mean, this white background is kind of boring, and I think that Kageyama just looks less cool than Hinata does in his cover, so yeah. Volume 39. I'm not the biggest Hoshiyumi fan, but I think that this cover is really cool at expressing who the character is. He's happy, he's a hard worker, judging by the sweat, and he has the same glint in his eyes as Hinata, and this painted art style look is super cool, and all around makes a pretty great cover. Volume 31. By Volume 31, you could see how much Furudate's style had changed and how the edges had become more rounded. Getting a cover seeing a Karasuno's defensive duo is super cool, and Nishinoya just has an amazing expression on this one, and yeah, good cover. Volume 8. The colored pencil crayon thing on this one is super interesting, and this whole King of the Court motif and outfit is just always really cool, and this is just one of Kageyama's best solo showings in the entire series, if not his best. Volume 37. This cover really stands out because more than any other Haikyu cover, this just looks like an art piece that got placed onto a cover. Usually Haikyu covers have a solid background or a pretty simple one, but here there's a fully colorful and detailed outdoor setting, and I feel like a different ranker would put this lower because of that, but I don't care. It's a cute and narratively significant cover showing us a lot about these two characters and their relationship and how deep and long their love for volleyball goes, and yeah, just a cover I really like to look at that I think is really cool. On to the next one. Volume 20. Man, I really like this cover and this entire character. I love how wide his eyes are, gathering information to make his block, and how kind of creepy he looks on the other side of the net, just looking into the eyes of the viewer. This is a great character-focused cover that does everything it should. It's an amazing art piece, it tells me about the character, it tells me where in the story I am, just a great cover all around. Volume 36. This cover. I think this part of the series and the idea behind the imagery is so cool. I don't know why Furudate made them carry knives, like they could just be squaring up with their fists, but nah, I guess they're about to stab each other. I guess that shows how intense this volleyball feud really is. Also, how can I not comment on how goofy Hinata's grin looks here? I don't know if that expression takes or adds points, but it is without a doubt interesting. Volume 13. Daichi. That's all I've got to say. The fly banner against the skies Karasuno is getting deeper in the tournament is just amazing. Daichi, the background, the banner, all of it, just a great simple cover. Volume 10. Tsukishima is one of my favorite characters in Haikyu. I love him, and this cover is truly amazing. It looks more like an excellent piece of graphic design rather than an artwork, if that makes any sense. I'm not going to elaborate any further. Tsukishima containing these colorful volleyballs in a net showing his deep level of love for the sport, but also how it's entirely internal and not external, all while he's against the moon, the symbolism he's given throughout the entire series. All around, just a really amazing cover. Volume 22.
It's red, and red is cool.
Volumes 43 and 44. I have to talk about these two as a pair. I mean, if you like one, you have to like the other. Those are just the rules, man. This is an amazing duology of covers showing the two absolutely stacked sides of the final match of the series. I would put 44 over 43 by a hair because I like Hinata a bit more than Kageyama. Also, the characters in motion look a bit cooler than just the characters walking. And if I was more of a hater, I would say that Hinata looks a little bit weird, but I'm not, so I won't. Volume 34. Volume 34 makes Volume 4 cry. Nekoma looks so cool here, and seeing them prepped and ready to take on Karasuno is awesome. The shading is kind of weird and stylistic, but it's cool nonetheless. Volume 32. I love the consistency of Furudate using mostly white backgrounds throughout the covers, but when he doesn't, it's usually to amazing effect. And I mean, Inarizaki on this beige black watercolor looking background is amazing. I also love the lantern and the team captain guy leading the team through the darkness. Another dope cover for sure. Volume 23. Man, I love this cover. It's so cool. I love this effect of like time being stopped, and I think that it executes on that really well, just seeing all these things in motion fully still. And I love the symbolism with like the dumpster battle and the cats. Just such a cool idea for a cover, and it's executed so well. Great cover. Volume 28. This is such a visually appealing and cool cover. It's simple, but it introduces the elevated level of competition at nationals and shows our boys running, putting the work in to take down these other guys. I love how the background characters look in this one. Hoshiumi honestly gives off a totally different vibe than he does in the rest of the covers here, but he looks absolutely awesome. All the characters do. This is just such a hyper appealing cover. I cannot put it any lower. Volume 17. A big gripe I had with some of the lower ranked covers were background characters who were undetailed or unpolished, but at this point Furudate had shaken that problem off with this Alba Josei cover, because every single character looks dope and the perspective and posing for every character is so cool. Volume 18. Immediately after Volume 17, and by my rank, is Volume 18. Man, I love Shiri Torizawa, and seeing the whole team in this super cool artwork is awesome. And how much it reflects the previous volume is a great touch. I also love these vertical pressure lines showing the pressure this team brings. All around, another amazing cover. Volume 30. This section of the manga with Tanaka is amazing, and this cover is just super cool. This trash heap setting gets used a lot, but it is always cool. The facial expression is cool, the pose is great, all around another great cover. Volume 41. As an artwork, it's amazing, but as a narrative piece of work, it is everything. These two facing off against all the adversity they face in the court because of their stature, and all of the short volleyball players of the past watching them, seeing as they compete. Just an amazing cover. Volume 24. Here it is, 20 spots away from its brother, Volume 24, and man, what a cover. Kageyama is happy in his cover. Things are clear and good for him at his winter camp, but this cover shows Hinata in a much scarier place, staring down the cold barrel of falling behind. The background adds a lot to this scene, and the desperation and glint in Hinata's eyes always goes hard. Just this struggle of Hinata trying not to waste time is so relatable and real, and I love how this cover tries to capture that, and it absolutely succeeds. I've said it probably 15 times throughout this video, but another amazing cover. Volume 33. Man, I love the motion in this cover. It's amazing. It really feels like time just stopped with the sweat particles in the air and all that. The expression and focus Hinata showing is amazing. Great cover. Volume 27. This one is super similar to the one before, but I put it ahead because there are so many awesome Hinata covers, but there are not that many awesome Sugawara covers, so I had to put him ahead. The 3D perspective on this one and like how detailed the artwork is actually incredible. I just love these covers so much, man. Another excellent one. Volume 38. I'm not the biggest Fukurodani fan. I don't want to put this cover this high, but it goes too ridiculously hard. Like every character looks amazing, and the feeling of motion and that focal point of Bokuto is incredible. The slanted perspective is also really cool, but in the end, it's the polish on every single part of the artwork which places it so high for me. I mean, you can zoom in on any part of it, and it looks like that could have been its own cover. It is actually just so detailed and well done. Volume 19 and 16. Another duology. I love these two characters, and I love them as a pair. And each of these characters grows ridiculous on their own, but together they are even cooler. Seeing these characters hold weapons representative of their skill set is awesome, and better than random knives like in that other cover. And when these covers go side by side, oh yeah. The artwork, the expressions, the setting, the details, the coolness, and how these two operate as a pair makes it one of the greatest covers, both of them individually, but together, just something special. Volume 1. This volume being this high on the list is entirely due to the fact that it's the first volume. But it's an amazing cover that shows exactly what this series is about. These two characters pursuing volleyball together and being pushed forward by one another as, again, they chase that dream. This cover just feels like the start of a great ambition for the characters, but also for the series creator, Haruichi Furudate. And yeah, this is just one of the cooler covers in the entire series, showing where we start off with the series. Volume 45. In the end, I put Volume 45 over Volume 1. I slightly prefer the artwork on Volume 1, but I feel like with these first and last covers, I always have to think about what they mean in the series. So many series and ambitions in our life come and go. So many of us have been at Volume 1 striving for that ball, but so many fewer have hit Volume 45. Volume 45's cover is amazing, and a real testament to the completion of Furudate's work and his completed ambition, though Hinata and Kageyama will keep chasing that ball forever. Volume 9. The angle, the artwork, the pose, the expression, the coloring, everything about this cover is perfect. I love Volume 9's cover. Furudate absolutely spams the scary Hinata stare, but it looks amazing every time. And I'm pretty sure this cover is depicting one of the greatest moments in the series and also most heart-crushing. But the volume doesn't actually contain that moment, if I understand correctly, so I could be wrong. I just love the intensity of Hinata and this blurred motion, this color, pencil, crayon thing. It just looks amazing. volume 21. I feel a bit irrational and dumb for putting this one this high. I mean, at my number 2 spot. I mean, it's just Ushijima with some animals, but it's also Ushijima with some colorful animals in the background. Honestly, I love this cover for just showing us a cool character and a cool setting, and these animals are just so darn colorful and cool, and the eagle above them representing Shiratorizawa is incredible. It's just so cool. It's so visually appealing, more than any other cover. I don't know what to say. So yeah, can't put this one any lower. Them's the rules. I just like it too much. Volume 42. Finally, there's volume 42. I debated for a while whether or not to put this here, but I think it is definitively the best Haikyu cover. Haikyu is a manga about volleyball. The friends made playing, the practices, the skills, the glorious victories, and the crushing defeats, the desperation, and so many of the things in between. And so many covers of this series show those different aspects, but when it comes to the desperation and bitterness of defeat, this cover displays that in a way that none other do. And I just think it's incredible. I mean, it is such a cool artwork when you look at it. And I mean, it just burns itself into your brain and you think about it for so long. Like, I looked at a lot of these covers for the first time while making this video, but I already had this cover in my mind because it is just such a striking piece of artwork, and I have to put it at my number 1 spot because it is just my favorite and it represents so much narratively. So yeah. So now I've done it. I've ranked all the Haikyu covers. I think this series has amazing covers that are cohesive and follow their own rules, but not so much it's a detriment. And the evolution of Furudate's artwork throughout is amazing. Thank you for watching. That's all.